Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good day and welcome to the show. Listen, I'm glad to have you guys here. Today is the 30th of April, 2020, and it's a Thursday. And welcome to the show. Now, listen, we're going to get the chart started right here. We're going to talk about China and the WHO, the World Health Organization's very special relationship that they have together. And how this relationship works and how it's a very loving relationship as far as I can see. Okay. Anyway, the World Health Organization's early coronavirus response raises awkward questions about their relationship with Beijing being China. New questions are being asked about whether the WHO sought to curry favor with China in ways that have undermined its reliability of its advice. Well, this is from the Globe and Mail, this article, about how the World Health Organization, basically they praise China to the limit for China's response to the coronavirus. Now, what is the World Health Organization anyway? I was looking at this article here from Zero Hedge, and I'm not even going to go into detail on this article. You guys can look it up on Zero Hedge if you want. It's so disgusting. I'm not even going to show it on my show. But you guys can look it up if you want. But I want to focus on this symbol of the World Health Organization right here. And that's what I'm focusing on for this article from Zero Hedge, because they have a really nice picture of this symbol that you can look at right here. And we're going to talk about what this symbol is about and where did it come from. Is it a new symbol that some artist just came up with? No, it's not. It's a very old symbol that goes back into antiquity, all the way to a civilization that existed before Babylonia, before the Egyptians, before the Assyrians. There was a civilization called the Sumerians. And this symbol comes directly from the Sumerian civilization, from a particular god in the Sumerian civilization. Okay, we're looking at pictures of this symbol again for the World Health Organization. But not only that, take a look very carefully at this symbol. We can see the symbol stands out. Let me focus in my chart here for a second. We can see that the symbol really stands out in a couple ways. One of the ways is the symbol itself, which is a snake entwined around a tree. This is called a sacred tree in the ancient civilization, the ancient Sumerian civilization. This was called the sacred tree, and the serpent entwined around the tree. All of the people, if you went back 2,000 years ago, or 3,000 years ago, all the people knew this symbol, and they knew what deity it was. It was the ancient serpent deity, whose name was Enki or Ea. Those were his two names. He had two different names. One of the names, the Ea name, was kind of like a hissing sound. That's how it was pronounced in the ancient language, kind of like a hissing sound. Ah, or Ea, ah, or ah. The people that knew this god in ancient times in antiquity. And yes, this is the exact same god, because it was not lost on the ancient people. The tale in the Garden of Eden, where it talks about the serpent in the tree that talked to Eve, that was not lost on the ancient people. They'd understood exactly what that meant. But it's lost on the modern day people because they don't know this information. They're naive to it because generations grew up that were not taught this information. But the ancient people, like 2,000 years ago when the Bible was written, or should I say the Old Testament was already written, but the New Testament was being compiled at that time, they knew what this symbol was. But there's more. You notice how this serpent on a pole is directly above the pole of the earth, the north pole of the earth, and all of the continents and all of the lands of the entire earth are under it. directly under it. And this is symbolic. This is symbolism at its finest. Let's open the charts up again so we can take a look here. So that's the World Health Organization, and that's their symbol. Let me see here. Let me take a look at this article. This is the ancient serpent god himself from stelas, taking out of these stelas are very old. They are on clay tablets that have been dug out of the ancient sands of Mesopotamia of this particular deity and what was called the Tree of Life. We can see the serpent deity seated here next to another deity. This other deity was probably the other deity that they worshipped in the ancient world, called Enlil, E-N-L-I-L, you know. But at any rate, I've studied these things in quite detail. We can see these other pictures here of the... I did a lot of research into this at one time when I was younger. And so I'm quite familiar with a lot of these things. This in the center of this picture here, on the top three pictures here, is what was called the Tree of Life in the ancient world or in the ancient culture, and this was associated with the gods and the anyway. Okay, so we're getting bogged down a little bit. Let's move on. It was called the Asherah pole. The pole that the serpent was entwined around. In biblical times, it was called an Asherah pole, or a sacred tree, or a pole. It says the sacred tree or pole that stood near Canaanite religious locations. And this pole was worshipped in a way, the people back then called it a certain deity that meant Lord. It was called B-A-A-L. And what that actually meant was Lord, B-A-A-L, or Baal, or Baal. And people who are familiar with the Bible know all about Baal worshippers, or Baal worship, you know. Anyway, that's what this was. So that was Inky on the tree. But let's take a look at the coronavirus here. It was spreading through the earth. But the World Health Organization, they said that's not a global emergency. Doesn't represent a threat out of China. But you know, they had doctors within the World Health Organization at the time. And you know, there's another thing that they were saying. They were saying it can't be spread from human to human, only from animals to humans at that particular time. Now, I didn't take an alarm at the virus because I read those articles, I remember at the time. And so I was basically not really keeping my eye too much on this virus because the World Health Organization was saying that it could not be spread from human to human. I remember back then. They said it wasn't a threat. But, you know, China was also at the same time, see if I can find it here. China at the same time, they were suppressing the information from coming out about the virus. China was saying that this doctor, this was a Chinese doctor right here who died of the virus, and he was trying to warn the people. And what happened to him? It says Dr. Li, 34 years old, was trying to send a message to fellow medics about the outbreak at the end of December. 3 days later, the police paid him a visit. And they told him to stop. Stop warning the other doctors. And evidently they impressed it upon him so much that he did stop. They probably threatened the man with gosh knows what. Maybe they were going to throw him in prison for the rest of his life. So he returned to work. He caught the virus from a patient. And he spent, I guess, 3 weeks in the hospital and he died. And this is the poor guy right here. And they suppressed him from spreading the alarm about the virus. Now, you have to understand something about this. That the Chinese government, in the early stages of this virus, is when you have to try to stop it. And there is a definitive proof out there that the Chinese government was doing quite the opposite of what they should have been doing to try to stop this virus. But how did the World Health Organization deal with this? Well, you know, the World Health Organization was sending very much praise to China back then at that particular time. World Health Organization early coronavirus response raises awkward questions about Beijing's relationship. It says new questions are being asked about whether the World Health Organization has sought to curry favor with China in ways that have undermined the reliability of its advice. You know, and I remember back then, World Health Organization was sending out praises to China for their handling of the early stages of the virus, you know. It seems almost ridiculous now. So what do we got going on here? Who we got is watching out for all of us and our benefits to try to keep us from catching deadly viruses in the world is an organization who did, basically, I'm going to get down to it. I don't think they did their job properly, and I think that they are in bed with China. No other way of putting it, you know. And I think President Trump is right on the money when he says that no more funding for them. You know, that's just a start as far as I'm concerned, you know. Because now we're having to deal with a virus that's deadly, it's worldwide, and the whole world's having to deal with the repercussions of this virus, you know, at this point in time. And this is so sinister. This whole thing is so sinister. And there's an awful lot more to it than probably what I even started to touch on this program, you know. Anyway, let's take a look now today at silver. Silver is $15.15. And it looked like it took a little dip earlier, but now it's coming back up into its range. It's traveling within its range right now. Let's take a look at cryptocurrency. First let's take a look at gold, too. I forgot to look at gold. Can't forget gold. Gold 1706. It's down $7.50. Take a look at crypto. 247.8 billion, 65.6% Bitcoin dominance. We're looking at a Bitcoin price of $88.65. So Bitcoin is moving up. There's deflation coming ahead. Deflation, you know. I'm just not exactly sure. This whole crisis, it's been very, very difficult to predict the Bitcoin price during this crisis, ever since this crisis started, you know. And normally I go over on my other channel and I kind of predict which way it's moving, and I have an excellent track record on my channel, the Delta Report. But there hasn't been an awful lot of videos from me over on my other channel lately because it's very, very hard to predict the price movements of Bitcoin right now, and I know this because of what's happening in the world with this virus, you know. But as soon as the virus starts to let off, I'm going to go back over there doing my price predictions again, you know, for Bitcoin. And I'm very good at it. I have a very good track record, you know, as time went by over there, my future predictions of cryptocurrencies. Basically, I do future predictions of where I think the price movement and price action is going to go. But this is not financial advice. It's not for people to try to invest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I warn them over there. I tell them, hey, look, this is probably the most dangerous thing you can invest in because the price can move up and down so radically in one day. You know, it's very, very volatile. Okay, let's move on. Let's take a look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average today. It's down 214 points. Let me refresh the page. 256 points, 24,377 today. Well, let's take a look at crude oil. Crude oil, $17.62. It's up 2.56% today, or 17%. Bonds. Bonds are down looks like about 3 basis points. We're looking at 1.23 on the U.S. 30-year and 0.59 on the U.S. 10-year. And let's finish off with the dollar index. And the dollar is taking a dive right now. It's down 0.59, 0.58. It's down almost 60% of 1 penny. Because it was up near 100 the other day, you know, and now it's down over a penny from where it was. So, and it's dropping right now. Thank you guys for listening to this market report. Give me a thumbs up, like and subscribe, and all that good stuff, you know. And you guys have a great rest of the day, and we'll catch you guys. Probably going to be doing a show this weekend. I'm not exactly sure about what just yet, and we'll catch you guys later. Bye.